a todos os amigos, muito bem-vindos a esse encontro de usuários Esri do ano de 2012. É um grande prazer tê-los aqui, é uma grande alegria tê-los aqui. E hoje é um dia muito especial. Há alguns milhares de anos, há 100 mil anos, há talvez mais, há não 100 mil anos, 10 anos, 1000 anos, 20 mil anos, o homem começou a se sentir, a viver de uma forma necessária à agricultura para que ele seguisse sua vida, sua alimentação. Introduziu-se a agricultura. E com a agricultura veio a colheita, veio a safra farta. E na safra farta, a festa. Mais um ano se passou em que nós semeamos. Somos também semeadores, semeadores de ideias. Nós semeamos geografia para suportar o processo das nossas organizações, em diferentes áreas, no governo, em recursos naturais e nas empresas de serviços. Nós temos aqui pessoas que trabalham em todas essas áreas. Estamos aqui, nossa tribo, para contar nossos feitos e para nos integrarmos cada vez mais a essa rede da humanidade. Declaro aberta a primavera das ideias. Estamos também no momento astronômico, estamos começando a primavera, estamos no equinócio, a duração do dia e da noite se torna igual, e o dia se prolonga mais. Renova-se um ciclo no hemisfério sul, renova-se um ciclo na Terra, o hemisfério sul inicia a nova safra. Nós iniciamos a nova safra de ideias, esse evento marca a nova safra de ideias que colheremos no ano que vem. Estamos com sementes de ideias cada vez melhores. Nós somos capazes cada vez mais de inserir a geografia na gestão do nosso planeta. Na verdade, usamos a geografia há milênios para decidir como crescemos. As civilizações são marcadas pela interação do homem com a geografia. Mas há uma enorme mudança acontecendo. Os primeiros hominídeos surgiram na face do planeta há uns milhões de anos atrás, talvez 5 milhões. Nós, o Homo sapiens, surgimos há 1 milhão de anos. Entretanto, há um marco notável na nossa história. Há cerca de 100 mil anos, nós entendemos que não éramos apenas animais, e o homem saiu da cadeia alimentar. O homem se retirou da cadeia alimentar animal. Como? Enterrando os mortos. Na medida em que aquelas tribos de humanídeos, espalhadas pela África, pela Ásia, quase que simultaneamente, passaram a enterrar os mortos. Nesse momento, nós saímos da cadeia alimentar animal. Esse foi um momento decisivo. As nossas capacidades cognitivas aumentaram. A velocidade do nosso aprendizado aumentou enormemente e as mudanças foram muito grandes. Mas agora, 100 mil anos depois, existe também uma nova consciência nascendo aqui, na China, nos Estados Unidos, na Índia, em toda parte. Que nova consciência é essa que também nasce dessa forma que nasceu há 100 mil anos atrás? É a consciência de que nós não somos apenas humanidade. Como não éramos apenas animais, não somos apenas humanidade. Nós somos humanidade e planeta, simultaneamente. Somos mais que humanidade. Ser humanidade e planeta é ser mais que humanidade. E se nós somos humanidade e planeta, somos também humanidade e país, humanidade e cidade. Somos a humanidade Brasil. E qual é o nosso papel de humanidade Brasil? Nós temos um grande papel para cumprir, participando dessa retirada da humanidade da cadeia alimentar cósmica. Qual seja esse papel? Esse papel nos é dado primeiro pelo manejo da nossa geografia. Nós temos os grandes ambientes ecológicos do planeta. Nós temos a Amazônia, nós temos o Pantanal, nós temos terras férteis com capacidade de uma grande produção agrícola. Isso nos traz responsabilidades. Essas responsabilidades são maiores ainda, porque temos também mais do que a Terra. Temos tecnologia, temos conhecimento do nosso planeta, temos uma visão clara de como utilizar a tecnologia e o conhecimento da geografia para trabalhar no nosso planeta. Temos também uma grande capacidade de partilhar. O povo brasileiro, ele é um povo de sociedade, de rede. A capacidade de partilhar a rede é muito grande. E essa talvez seja uma das nossas grandes riquezas. A nossa capacidade de nos conectarmos às pessoas e, dessa forma, nos conectarmos também à geografia, nessa visão cosmológica. Com essa habilidade, nós podemos ajudar a criar a Terra, humanidade, planeta, junto. Essa nossa questão geográfica e essa nossa habilidade é uma das principais ferramentas para essa nova humanidade, geografia. Vou falar um pouco mais para vocês sobre a nossa brasilidade. Brasilidade é uma maneira de ser que às vezes não entendemos muito bem, mas é uma grande riqueza. O primeiro ponto da nossa brasilidade é a capacidade que temos de admirar. Admirar coisas novas, coisas de valor. Admiramos um estrangeiro. Admiramos qualquer estrangeiro. Ele fala muito bem a sua língua, ele tem costumes diferentes. O brasileiro acolhe e admira o estrangeiro. Podem ser chineses, podem ser americanos, podem ser japoneses, podem ser italianos, alemães, até mesmo argentinos, a gente acolhe bem, a gente admira. É próprio do Brasil admirar coisas importadas, é próprio nós também admirar a conservação do solo, admirar a tradição, mas também admirar o novo, admirar a tecnologia. Nós admiramos coisas gel. Nós admiramos as coisas gel somadas com tecnologia. Nós usamos coisas gel somadas com tecnologia. E de admirar a adotar é um caminho muito curto. Nós admiramos, amamos e adotamos. E esse caminho é muito curto. E na medida em que somos capazes de amar e adotar, isso nos torna mais conectados a outros seres. Nós, como brasileiros, amamos coisas que vêm da África, coisas que vêm do Haiti, coisas que vêm dos Estados Unidos, coisas que vêm do Japão, coisas que vêm da Alemanha, da China, de toda parte. Ser cósmico é a conexão que temos entre os homens e com o planeta. Não nos conectaremos com o planeta sem não nos conectarmos entre nós. A brasilidade é parte do caminho para ser cósmico. Estamos aqui em festa pelo fim de um ciclo, início de outro. Somos agricultores, agricultores de ideias. Quando você planta ideias, as ideias que nascem são surpreendentemente melhores que as ideias que plantamos. Falamos aqui de um importante momento da humanidade em que o homem saiu da cadeia alimentar e disse: não sou mais apenas animal. Estamos agora num importante momento da nossa história, em que percebemos em toda parte, aqui, em toda parte, que o planeta Terra está numa cadeia cósmica, em que ele exaure as suas capacidades, as suas riquezas e desaparece. Nesse momento, entendemos que somos, ao mesmo tempo, humanidade e planeta. Nesse momento, entendemos que nós, planeta, humanidade, temos um papel. O nosso país tem um papel importante. As pessoas dessa sala têm um papel muito importante. Devemos cumprir esse papel. Possuímos as capacidades de cumprir esse papel. Temos as riquezas no país de cumprir esse papel. Temos riquezas para exportar. A capacidade de se unir, a capacidade de estabelecer redes, ela é muito brasileira. E isso somente um povo entrelaçado e unido entre si é que consegue estabelecer uma rede com o planeta. A nossa forma, que precisa evoluir, é um modelo de conexão entre homens e com o planeta. Os sistemas de informações geográficas permitem que nos conectemos entre nós e ao planeta. Será essa uma chave? Vocês ouviram o Guarani de Carlos Gomes. Obrigado. Bom, amigos, muito obrigado. Continuando a nossa manhã, falaremos muito disso, falaremos da conexão do homem, da humanidade com a natureza. Eu gostaria de chamar aqui, para falar para vocês, um líder que usa as tecnologias da geografia, os sistemas de informação geográfica, para trabalhar essa questão do homem integrado à natureza. Ok? Por favor, meu amigo Cocoró Meganotiri.
Acatimed, Mecuni, em primeiro lugar, bom dia a todos, participantes, convidados. Eu sou o Caiapó, eu sou da tribo indígena Mecranguti, Caiapó, né? Eu venho falar, representar meu povo, Caiapó, né? São 6 aldeias, Pucanu, Cubencocre, Pucanu, Baú, Onhuquapói, Pungraitire. Eu vim apresentar essas 6 aldeias para vocês escutar. Então, para mim falar, né, para falar um pouco da luta dos Caiapó, né, como é que está antes e hoje. A luta, para mim falar da lutas, falar da cultura, né? Para que nós, Caiapó, quer ser, manter, preservar a nossa cultura, preservar nossa terra, preservar nossa riqueza, preservar nosso rio. Nós, Caiapó, não quer mais aceitar, né? Porque cada vez está vendo mais invasores, são madeireiros, garimpeiros, né? Isso que nós não estamos aceitando mais. Para mim falar um pouco também do Instituto Cabu, uma ONG que nós temos no Progresso, no município do Pará, né? Desde quando afundou o Instituto Cabu, eu sou diretoria executiva do Instituto Cabu, que eu estou lá para defender meus parentes, a tribos, Caiapó, né? Sempre que eu estou lá ajudando. É isso para mim falar dos meus parentes. Não é só para mim falar dos meus parentes, não. Por que nós quer Caiapó? Porque para ser sempre, né? Está vendo geração, está vendo Caiapó novo. Isso nós quer preservar a terra, a cultura. Isso que nós quer, o povo Caiapó quer. Como um programa, mapeamento, está ajudando muito. E nós, Caiapó, nós estamos aprendendo, preparando os jovens para ajudar a preservar a cultura, preservar a área, preservar a terra indígena. Isso que nós, Caiapó, quer. O meu tempo é pouco, né, curto, né? Mas eu vou deixar uma mensagem bem clara para todos os participantes, convidados, né? Mas eu não vou falar em língua Caiapó. Menhum pucá, menhum bó, menhum o, menhum crá, menhum tobju, manono ancadin ba menhum mambó, nha neia cubé, menhum corcangomba, menhum engô, menhum manono caju. Para mim, homenagear a todo participante, para mim homenagear meus tribos Caiapó. Vou cantar uma música para homenagear todos que estão aqui de presente, para homenagear meus parentes, meus tribos Caiapó. Uou! Tucunho mandito hije tucunho mandito wapa veripe tucunho mandito wapa verite wo Ramana puta pahaja hore hore go hare hora moja hora moja huo joa harita homa mayo ngoma no kaver Hibohoyaka Nairo Wamajiro Veripa Jovere Huo Yambi, Meitire, muito obrigado a todos.
Muito obrigado. A tribo Caiapó usa o sistema ArcGIS primeiro para organizar a sua ocupação, entender como está acontecendo a ocupação. Eles marcam os pontos com GPS, carregam esses pontos no seu sistema ArcGIS, e também eles usam o ArcGIS para mapear o extrativismo das famílias Caiapó dentro da reserva indígena. Muito obrigado, meu amigo. Cocoró Megranotire. Amigos, a primeira frase foi muito interessante, eu fiquei até um pouco emocionado quando eu a vi ontem, porque o povo Caiapó e sua terra são uma coisa só. E esse é um sentimento que, como eu falei, nasce no planeta todo, ok? Eu gostaria agora de passar a palavra para mais um líder de uma tribo que tem colaborado bastante para que a geografia seja utilizada corretamente, que a geografia seja potencializada nos processos que geram riquezas para o nosso planeta, nos processos que governam o nosso planeta. Meu amigo, cacique Jacques Dangerman.
Thank you, Aeneas.
Thank
I
you,
appreciate
Jack.
it.
Okay, good speech.
Wow, this is interesting. Welcome to this third annual Users Conference. I want to join Aeneas in giving you my gratitude for being here. The purpose of this meeting is all about you. It's about your work. It's about what you do. Its purpose is for you to meet and get to know each other, share some of your ideas, grow. It's also a chance for us to share a little bit about our work. But I want to start with you. How many of you know everybody in the room? Okay. Take 1 minute and turn to your side and introduce yourself to one person. Tell them who you are. Do that for me now, please. Let them tell you also. You're not doing it. Let's go some more. Okay. Good, thank you. So let me repeat myself. The purpose of this meeting is for you to get to know each other because you represent the GIS professional infrastructure for Brazil. And this is very important that you get to know each other because collaboration will be one of the themes that I talk about. It's also, I think, one of the most important mediums for GIS professionals to engage in today. To better understand who you are, I want to start by introducing you to some of your work. Your work is important footprints for the future of Brazil. Aeneas began to share the context for that a couple of minutes ago. Your work spans almost every field in Brazil. You are working on measuring and mapping, like these simple technical examples illustrate. Measuring terrain, measuring vegetation, measuring geomorphology, and representing it in story maps, maps that people can understand. Some of your work deals with public safety and disaster management. These maps show susceptibility to landslides or flooding, or in the case in the lower right, susceptibility and problems in the social domain, supporting policing and dealing with cultural problems. Some of your work, like these examples in São Paulo, illustrate building the national cadastral system, the foundation for the civil society, and the foundation for taxation, which supports the growth and nurturement of government. Many of you are working on planning for the future, creating city plans, or regional plans, or territorial plans, or urban design, using tools to simulate alternative futures and understand the consequences of the human footprint. Others of you are managing utilities, water, gas, electricity, analyzing the most important areas where we need growth in our utilities, and then managing the facilities themselves. These examples show GIS applied to transportation, transit, optimizing logistics, even international import-export mapping. And finally, managing fundamental natural resources, the infrastructure that Aeneas talked about, natural ecological infrastructure, and analyzing the interaction between natural infrastructure and economic development, forestry, water protection, etc. In fact, your work is operating at many scales, micro scales, regional scales, even global scales. This map illustrates, for example, a model forecasting global warming, something that's on your mind, my mind, everyone's mind. Let me simply summarize the work that you are doing, whether it's in the cities or in the country or at a total national scale, is improving efficiency. This is a big one. It's also in the most optimal manner. This is the meaning of GIS. This is why you do it. And so I appreciate your work. This is a meeting for you to get to know each other and understand and appreciate these efforts. Your work is about storytelling, telling all the big stories of what's going on. Leandro asked if I would also share some stories that are happening outside of Brazil. These are a few examples. The map in the lower left is a map made by your colleagues on the tsunami, and it shows the tsunami movement across the Pacific Ocean. This map, made a couple of minutes after the tsunami hit Japan, saved lives. It showed hour by hour when the tsunami would hit the Hawaiian Islands and the Western Hemisphere. It was timely. The map in the center is another map from the same disaster. It's the Fukushima map of radiation. Do you see it? How it moved inland? But this map was kept a secret for 4 months. So radiation moved inland beyond the 4-kilometer protection zone of the Japanese government, and it got into the milk supply, it got into the food supply, it also radiated the people that were there. This map was not shared. It was not disseminated. Yet, when it finally was disseminated, the Prime Minister was eliminated. The power of a map, in this case, was to show the impact of radiation. You are dealing with a medium, which is very important. The map in the lower right shows hotspots for conservation in South Africa, and the map in the middle shows where the World Bank is spending money. You can notice a lot of money is being spent right now in Greece. Also, the map in the upper left on retail market potential is showing analytics for where to locate economic development. And finally, dealing with climate change, what's occurring at a global level. These are all interesting because you are dealing with a new language, the language of space. Collectively, GIS professionals' data and maps are being seen as providing a new kind of social infrastructure. You call it INDI here, or National Spatial Data Infrastructure. This is going on in China. I was there last week. They're building a national integrated system. It's going on in Geneva, the one on the lower right. They don't do anything in Geneva without running on a central GIS system. All transactions, all efforts, building permits, emergency response, around a hub. This is happening in Bogota, where they have a complete enterprise information system that runs the city. It's happening in Europe, it's happening in the US, and it's also beginning to happen here. You are parts of a larger system, a kind of super organism that's made up of the participants of, well, you're participating in a larger geographic information consciousness. And this will affect our future. The vision of this conference is to look at geography, our common science, as a foundation for connecting us, a kind of new language. Let's start with this notion. You and I live on a common planet. We breathe the same air. We're concerned about our future, the future as individuals, or about our family and children, about our organizations, and for some of you, the future of life itself on the planet. Our futures are being challenged. We are living in a very rapidly changing world. Population growth, ecological stress. We're pushing the frontiers of our own sustainability. And at the same time, we're living in an incredible time where scientific discovery in health, in biology, in how the world works is unprecedented. And we're also making huge technical advancements. We're getting more data about everything that moves and changes. But data is not enough. We need something more than simply measurement or just data. We need integrated knowledge, knowledge that will help us create better outcomes for our future. Your work in GIS is important. Geography is our platform for understanding the world. It's rooted in science. And you, as GIS practitioners, are making it come alive. You're integrating it. You're using it as a tool for integration of our measurements. You're using it to integrate science and measurements. You're creating a new language. And this language is affecting everything. It tells stories about the past. It tells stories about the current situation at the engineering level and at the global level. We need to learn how to use this same technology to create stories about the future, stories that are forecasting better outcomes. I like to call that geodesign, designing the future, consciously integrating science and all of our measurements. Maps, this new language, help us not only integrate our knowledge, but they also provide the platform for communicating, storytelling about everything. GIS is at a major turning point, and I appreciated Aeneas's dramatic introduction to this conference. We are, as practitioners, living at a time when there's lots of change. We can see ourselves in that context as very important professionals. I think more important than lawyers or doctors or scientists. You are a special group in charge of integration and communication. And this technology is at a changing point. It's at a turning point. It's at a time when we will see dramatic change in the next 5 years. Technology is enabling this shift. GIS itself is becoming more powerful, it's becoming easier to use, and it's also moving to a new platform. This new platform is the web cloud environment. It's different than the desktop, it's different than mini computers, it's different than mainframes. I've seen all of those turning points before, but this turning point is big. Not only is GIS becoming more powerful with all of these new technologies that you'll see this morning, it's also coalescing, converging with many other trends. More measurement, remote sensing, GPS, etc. There's also more data, exponentially more data. There's also new computing platforms. The cloud, SaaS, devices. I'm holding in my hand, as you know, because many of you have them, enormous power. And this is only 2012. Moore's law would suggest this connected with that will represent a new metaphor for GIS. And all of these trends are integrating with science, which is also accelerating. Big data, big science, looking at all the relationships and patterns and processes that invisibly exist and hold our planet together. These trends will help us to reimagine what the world is. They'll help us make new discoveries. They'll help us reimagine not only the world, but also they'll help us reimagine our world, the world of GIS and GIS professionals. It will mean that we can provide the wonderful tools that you use to everybody else in your organization, and ultimately everybody else on the planet. This means more understanding. This means the birthing. I think that this means the birthing of understanding at a global level. If all of these challenges that we're facing, evolving our planet, are true, which they are, then how do we make action that reverses some of the negative things that are emerging on our screens? I think it's about making this knowledge available to everyone. This cloud GIS platform, represented by this icon, integrates and extends the traditional patterns of desktop technology and server technology and device technology. It allows us not only to connect our desktops to a cloud environment, to the services environment, but also publish it as a new medium for mobile web integration with other systems, enterprise integration, leveraging this new cloud environment. Cloud GIS means that we can enable pervasive access. It means that GIS professionals can make their data available to the other participants with devices, through services. It means that we can integrate all kinds of measurements, sensor networks, imagery, maps, social media, anything that moves or is measurable in time and space. Web maps, something I'll talk more about in a few minutes, are the new medium. They're like a new language. And they will be the medium within which we tell our stories to the rest of the world. This new medium and this new architecture means that we can break down the barriers between the little departments or workflows or disciplines that we currently have. All of the ologies, geology, biology, sociology, all of the divisions that the Germans set up in the 1800s to organize science fall apart because you, as practitioners, can bring together these data sets and see holistic pictures of our world. You can share and approach problem solving in a more holistic manner. Now, this vision is not a new vision. This vision existed with DBMS technology. So in the center of that cloud in the old days, we had a database can, and people would say, just put all of your data into one database and use one data model. That didn't work out. Didn't work out because people would not agree on common data models and they didn't want to share around a common database. The web map medium is dramatically different. We can keep our own view and publish and share and allow mashup of web maps and models to exist. It's a new medium. That point I want to get across, and we will see it with demonstrations again and again. This new medium will enable collaboration and sharing and holistic approaches. Organizations are beginning to, I would say, rapidly adopt this new medium. These are a few examples. The UN Environmental Program published all of their environmental maps for the planet in the cloud. And they got many advantages from that. They didn't have to stand up their own servers. They made it available to many organizations. But when the European Environmental Agency, Eye on Earth, shared their data in exactly the same medium, then UN and environmental agencies in Europe were able to share and use each other's data. Then the World Bank joined, and they shared their data. And they were treating shared data as if it's their own. So we enriched, suddenly, different parts of the organization. Now, most US government organizations are sharing their data, and they're sharing between the environmental agency and the agricultural agency, between forestry and economic development, between health and homeland security. Funny combinations, but in fact, they are learning how to create and use shared services. This is creating geography as a platform openly with open standards so that different agencies can leverage each other, realizing the vision of INDI or NSDI. GIS within organizations is becoming a kind of platform. In other words, in the past, there was the GIS department. This was good. Many of you are employed in that position. But this same cloud environment allows us to make all the other departments a part of the GIS system. GIS professionals do the hard work, you, and others can use that work, but also contribute to that work through any device. In other words, GIS becomes available to everyone, anytime, anywhere, on any device, just like the web itself. This will connect the different organizational groups. Executives have access to real-time geospatial data. Field workers, even the public themselves, can see transparently the scientific or business information that's going on. Not all information should be shared, but that aspect which is appropriate for sharing can be leveraged across the organization. cloud will open our world. It will connect people. It will enable everyone to access it. And we're going to spend a significant amount of time this morning to show how that technology integrates with your current technology and show some examples of the benefit of embracing that pattern and the implication of creating a culture of sharing. It's really 1 + 1 = 5 or 10. It leverages our common work. This will provide many benefits across the organization, but it'll also directly benefit you in helping you accomplish your work. I've shared a little bit about your work, a bit about this vision of where I think the technology's taking us. I now want to concentrate very specifically on foundational research and development that we're doing at Esri. Many of you know just us as a name. I'd like to make that a little more transparent. In California, we have approximately 650 people who are developers. They concentrate on developing ArcGIS. They do that for you. You give us feedback, and we work on what we call a core or generic platform. That's how we see the world. Meetings like this are very important to me because people tell me, I need this new tool, or this doesn't work quite right. And over these last 30 years, we have co-evolved with our users this platform. That's made a huge difference to Esri having this relationship, and that's one of the purposes of this meeting, is to tell me problems in our platform. At 9.2 and at 9.1 and at 9 and at 8 and at 7 and at 6 and at 5 and at 4, every one of those releases of our tools, we had problems with our tools. And our users gave us very clear direction, sometimes on quality, sometimes on functionality, about what they wanted us to do. Again, one of the purposes of this meeting. This year, we have made a huge jump. And this jump is about both enhancing the existing tools that you work with, desktops, servers, etc., but it's also a step which does transformation, or at least it has transformational opportunities. So when I say we're at a major turning point, that's what I'm talking about. This diagram shows the various pieces of ArcGIS. There's desktop, there's server. This year particularly, there's a whole new group of apps, web apps, mobile apps that come with the server environment. Also, this year, we have released just 11 weeks ago something called ArcGIS Online, which is part of or integrated in with the rest of the system. I'd like you to think about ArcGIS as a total system. So today, when you buy the iPhone, iMusic comes with it. The iCloud comes with it. Also, the iPad is integrated with it. And also, even the Mac environment is integrated with it. So it's one system. It's not, of course, it's an individual device, but it also lives within a space of an engineered system as total. And that's, for the last 4 years, building up to this release, that was the vision. So if we look at it again, there's the desktop tools and lots of interesting improvements there. There's the server tools, lots of interesting technology improvements there. But there's also the fact that these plug into a mega system beyond each individual device. And also content is a significant piece of that. When you acquire ArcGIS today, say ArcView, there's $50 million of content that comes with it. It's like all the iMusic when you buy an iPhone. I'll talk about that. So let me summarize. There's an easier platform to work with. There's many more tools in analytics and cartography, but there's also this new cloud-enabled system that makes it all come together as a system. Let me drill into this. ArcGIS content is growing rapidly. We have base maps for the planet, ocean maps for the planet, street maps for the planet, geocoding for the planet. This little animation shows last year, this year, and next year in terms of coverage of high-resolution data. We have basically purchased all of the GeoEye and digital globe data, put it into the cloud, and making it available to all of our users for free as a service. And we will continue that so that high-quality georeferenced imagery is simply part of the ArcGIS system. At 10.1, the desktop has improved with better cartographic tools for automatic labeling, new tools for generalization, new tools for editing, for supporting workflows, and also just faster and more beautiful visualization and mapping. This will save time for you. It'll improve some of your productivity. The heart, for me, of GIS is analytics. That's why I was initially attracted to it. And at 10.1, there are new tools in spatial statistics, such as exploratory regression, which attempts to explain a pattern as a function of other patterns. It's basically statistics. And will create predictive formulas so that we can approximately estimate what will happen in the future. This is new for GIS. Better tools for kriging, contouring with error estimation, new tools for clustering spatial phenomena in time and space, and then very practical tools such as very fast time-aware routing, considering traffic, etc. 3D at 10.1 is not simply for visualization, it's a core part of the system. That means 3D data models. It means 3D analytics. Last week we released a new component of City Engine which resembles SketchUp, except that it's intelligent. So, for example, in the upper right, I'm actually designing, based on 2D footprints, a building and interacting in 3D to edit and enrich my database. In the lower right, I see new tools for analytics of 3D databases. Shade, shadow, viewshed, buffer zones, all in 3D. So GIS is moving from a 2D system to a full 3D platform. Part of that is unlocking LiDAR data. So LiDAR is being taken everywhere. Particularly, I see publications about this happening in Brazil. At 10.1, I can read directly LAS files and use them directly in ArcGIS for visualization and also for 3D analytics. This means direct, fast, and lots of analytic tools, looking at top, for example, of vegetation and bald earth so that I can measure biomass, measure more accurately terrain, etc., etc. At 10.1, ArcGIS is a complete remote sensing platform. It has dozens of tools for image classification, orthorectification, color balance, pan sharpening. And it integrates, as we'll see in a demonstration in a minute, full motion video. It allows us to do 3D measurement of things like building heights. And it also allows us to automatically bring in a new image and through pixel association, register new imagery automatically. This is pretty exciting because instead of having to have an image processing system and a GIS system, these tools are integrated directly into ArcGIS itself. So those are all desktop tools. On the server side, ArcGIS has an interesting capability to dynamically serve imagery. The aircraft flies along, brings back the imagery. The satellite flies along, we download imagery. These raw files can be put behind a server and automatically served without processing the data in advance. In other words, it does on-demand image serving and processing. This is revolutionary. We have done this for a few images, and it does dynamic integration on the fly. We've done it with a few dozen images, and it does dynamic integration and processing on the fly. We've done it for a few hundred images. It does dynamic integration and processing on the fly. We've done it for a few thousand, a few tens of thousands, a few hundreds of thousands of imagers, a few million images in large image files, and it reads the data dynamically, integrates it, processes it, and allows it to be viewed in a second. This is very different because as we increasingly measure everything on the planet that moves and changes, it means that we will have persistent surveillance coming from remote sensing satellites, and being able to dynamically serve it without pre-processing is a big change. Today, you can look at this. We stood up, in this case, 50 million images for the 50,000 images for Landsat, multispectral images, and we can, in about a second, look at time and space variation. Actually, USGS stood up 3 million images about 2 months ago, open to the entire world, and they are able to be processed. For example, dynamic NDVI or dynamic change analysis can be done. This seemingly little improvement will allow us to bring all geographic measurement together and serve it as a web map, something that's simple enough for any human being to understand and work with. In other words, it takes out of the specialist world remote sensing and makes it available to everyone. For professionals, the desktop ArcGIS becomes not only an analytic and cartography platform, but also an authoring platform. So if I make a beautiful map in TIN 1, I can right-click my device, send it over to a server, and have it automatically turn into a map or analysis service.